And welcome back again. Yours truly, excuse me, Anthony Parker of You Got It, Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker. We try to keep it honest. We try to keep it simple. We try to keep it real. If you have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's Parkerman2011, Parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Again, Parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can text me. Telephone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing good today. And then there were seven. We're talking about the political candidates. There were eight of them. And one, they didn't drop out. They just dropped out of the one debate we have. So now there's seven. And if that one drops out, you're thinking it's because either they didn't get the money or they decided, well, we don't want to do this. So why would you turn down a debate to go out there and get votes? Because whether we like it or not, debates are important. But don't tell that to Donald Trump and also President Biden. On this program, Keeping It Honest, what we try to do, we try to get both sides of the story. We try to do the left, we try to do the right. And at the end of the day, we hope that what you hear or see, you may not like it. And if you don't like it, then we're doing our job, but hopefully you will like it. And even if you don't like it, hopefully you will respect it. So on this program, if you're new to the show, we've done some shows involving 27 missing kids. I'm going to do a follow-up on that. We did a fun show about fathers. Fathers exactly do not get the respect that they deserve. So we did a show about your best TV dads because I wanted to know which of these TV dads were the ones that either it's you or it's your father, or for somebody who you would like to have in your life as a dad if you have no dad. One of my favorite TV fathers, of course, was John Amos on Good Times. I love that man. And Dr. Phil, or Mr. Phil, or Uncle Phil, but his name is Phil, on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. We did a fun show on that, and we did a couple other fun shows and some serious shows too. We have some upcoming guests, which is really going to be amazing. I've held out on some of that, and it's interesting because some of the people who are running for president, some of them are going to be on my show. And you're probably asking yourself, this little show? Yes, this little show. A couple of political candidates. If you haven't seen them already, you will be seeing them, so stay tuned. And the reason we do this show, background for newcomers, I've done a couple decades of radio, television, and print, and now coming back to social media. And I found out from being in mainstream media to social media, mainstream media is basically going to give you what they want to give you. We're social, even though we may not like a lot of the social, you do, excuse me, I'm all choked up. You do have some shows, excuse me, and throughout the show, make sure you take a drink too. And my favorite is tea. But social media shows, we don't give them enough credit. Yeah, there are some that, you know, are kind of trashy and just do their own goofy things, but they have their audience. And then there are some like mine's, Making Kelly, Savvy, two of my favorite ones that do news shows and give information and give interviews. So we all have our kind of demographics that we lead to. So hit the like button and share it and subscribe. Tell your friends. If there's any topics you'd like to see in the show, let me know. Because if you see a topic and you say, wow, man, I'd like to hear more about that, then stay tuned to my show. Also, like I said, special guests coming up. So before I had my show, I was calling it Keeping It Real. Because as you find out in the show, I try to keep it real. But then I found out that was kind of taken. So that's where we get the Keep It Honest. Keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it real. And it's interesting, I was looking for the name of my show. We went on AI I'm gonna give you some of the couple show titles that AI gave me. True to Life with Anthony Parker, Unfiltered with Anthony Parker, Raw and Real with Anthony Parker. Two of my favorites, The Genuine Insights featuring Anthony Parker, and The Authenticity Factor starring Anthony Parker, and Realness Unleashed with Anthony Parker. Good titles. Still going to be a good show. And as you go through the show, we go through the show, you'll find out why some of those titles might fit the show. So we're going to talk about Joe. We're going to find out which Joe. Maybe a possible Obama running for president. We're going to hit on that. We're going to do the Meet the Press, the charts politics kind of thing. Candidates, they go out there and they say things against other candidates. Well, let's fact check some of these candidates who are running for president. One of the debates, speaking time. How much, how little does speaking time make a difference? And why are debates important? Are they important to you? You get to know somebody. But a lot of these people, they think we're running, well, we don't need to run in a debate. You think this is a first? There's been a history of that. Who qualified for the debate? That's going to be interesting. Who qualified for the debate? And remember, I said, and then there were 7. There's 8 here. But one of them dropped out of the debate. We're going to talk about that. The new polls. Who's running? How good are they? It's going to surprise you. And then we're going to talk about the people who are debating. So it's a fun-filled show. Sit back, relax, drink something, and enjoy the show. So if you've watched my show, you've heard me talk about people, politicians, and saying, you know, with the politicians that are running, every year you wonder, are some in the neck of things because they're supposedly put in there to maybe take votes from people? Again, let me give you a little background on yours truly. I recently ran for Congress. And before you spill your tea or coffee, let me tell you, how's this guy running for Congress? Well, I ran for political office before. And because I was kind of snubbed and I saw how the political land was and some of the politicians, when you're in power, just do your job. Okay? Politicians, you work for the people. So when I was snubbed in the situation, I said, you know what else can I do? And I read up and there was opportunity to run for Congress. I sat up, prayed. I said, you know what? I'm going to run. Is it a heavy task? It's all in what you make of it. So I ran, and there was 4 of us that ran. I came in 4th place, but there was a lot of money in the other campaigns, and it was just me and my family. But I came in 4th place. I got 5% of the vote in 4th place, and I was 5% from getting 3rd place. Now you can drink your coffee again and say, what? So it showed me if nobody's doing the job and they're in office, either you run or support people who want to run for office. If the politicians aren't doing their job, then call them out. So this person right here, you might remember, but it's kind of a sad story. His name is Samuel Joe, or Joe the Plumber. And I don't know if you guys remember him, but his name was Samuel Joe Wurtzenberger or Wurtzenbacher. And years ago, he became Joe the Plumber. So let's go back. Years ago, he asked Barack Obama about his economic policies during the 2008 presidential campaign. And it's interesting because after he became known as Joe the Plumber, he got involved in politics. And he was like me and you, just a regular Joe, no pun intended, who saw, hey, you know what? These politicians aren't doing anything. Even the ones that are trying to get in office aren't doing anything. I want to get in office. So the sad story is recently he passed away. He was only 49 years old. So his oldest son, Joey, said his father died in Wisconsin after a long illness. His family announced this year on an online fundraising site that he had pancreatic cancer. The only thing I have to say is that he was a true patriot, his son said, whose father had the middle name Joseph and went by Joe. His big thing is that everyone come to God. Wow. He taught me, and that's a message I hope to be heard by a lot of people. So let's go back to Joe. He went from a plumber in suburban Toledo, Ohio, to life as a media sensation when he asked Obama about his tax plan during a campaign stop. And how many people remember that back in 2008? He's just a regular Joe, but he became Joe the Plumber. So when they talked, Obama's response that he wanted to spread the wealth around, it aired on national news. Days later, Obama's Republican opponent, John McCain, repeatedly cited Joe the Plumber in a presidential debate. So he went on the campaign with Sarah Palin, and he criticized McCain in his book and said he did not want him as a GOP presidential nominee. So, of course, Obama won. His Sutton thing, because he's out there, a regular Joe, just doing his thing. He was a voice for many anti-establishment conservatives, and he traveled the country speaking at Tea Party rallies and conservative gatherings. Now, do you remember the Tea Party? He also wrote a book and worked with a veterans organization that provided outbound programs for wounded soldiers. In 2012, he made a bid for United States House seat in Ohio, but he lost in a landslide to Democratic Marcy Kaptur in a district heavily tilted toward Democrats. And if you remember, that's also when Dennis Kucinich lost his office too. So Republicans had recruited him to run and thought his fame would help bring in enough money to mount a serious challenge because everybody knew about it. But he drew criticism during the campaign for suggesting that the United States should build a fence at the Mexican border and start shooting at immigrants suspected of entering the country illegally. So I guess he went, a little bit off the rail on that. So after that, after his loss, he returned to working as a plumber after he gave up on politics. And he survived by his wife, Katie, and 4 children. But what made him get into office or try to get into office? And better yet, what made him drop out of office? Do we need more Joe the Plumbers? Yes, we do. Do we need more people, normal Joes, trying to make it in office? Yes, we do. Not the AOCs that, act like they're the innocent people and they're starting off from being a waitress and they get in the squad and they fight for people to get in office. And once they get in office, they don't come back to their roots, or not even like a Bernie Sanders, who supposedly doesn't support big corporations. On the show, we talked about that. We need more honest Joes or Joe the plumber. And we say a prayer for you. And we pray that because of you, you've helped bring honest people together. And hopefully because of this story, you will continue to bring honest people together. You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And welcome back again. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. Keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it real. And we try to keep it real on this show. And like I said, with the story about Joe the Plumber, there was a guy really, whether you like his policies or not, especially the one, the shooting part, which I'm not a fan of, but at least he was an honest Joe that tried to commit to politics. And can you be an honest Joe and run for politics and be on the debate stage? Well, and then there were 7, 8 right here, but there's 7 left. And I want you to think about something real quick before we go to our story. Have you ever sent an email that you regretted and thought you could delete it and it never got to that person? I have on a couple occasions. Um, Let me know if you have to. Have you like, oh my God, can I get that back? So let's think really quick before we start deleting. So think before we delete. And here's something, make sure you're not drinking your coffee. So here you go. Not too many people have talked about this undercurrents, but here we go. I'm gonna make you think. I'm not even gonna say anything about that. Okay, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Here's another picture. Kamala and Michelle. Which way are we gonna go? And last but not least, all right, something to think about. Put it on the chat line. All right. So I love watching Meet the Press. And on that show, Meet the Press, if you ever watched that, comes on Sundays. It was Tim Russert, and recently Chuck Todd just left, and I forgot the person who took his place. So on that show, they do a lot of charts. They make you think. Sometimes it's easier than maybe sometimes people talking. But since this is debate time, and the presidential election is like literally a little over a year from now, how many people are worried about democracy being able to function in the United States? 83%. That's a lot of people that are worried. 15% are not worried. And I've said this on my show, for the 15% that are not worried, what life are you living in? How many of these are Democrats? How many of these are Republicans? Worried about democracy being able to function in the United States. And the question is exactly, what is democracy? As we go through these debate times, views on the U.S. economy. 28% now are satisfied. 72% are dissatisfied on the economy. Wow. In April 2021, 48% were satisfied. 52% were dissatisfied. So why has the economy gone down? And these are things that, as you're running for president, you're going to have to deal with. One of the things that people are slowly talking about, how much this is going to affect these people right here if the Republicans win. Too old to serve another term among U.S. adults. Biden, too old, 77%. Trump, too old, 51%. So over half the country really thinks that these guys running for president are too old to run. What makes them run? You think about that. Why are they running? Why are these guys running? Because they see an opportunity, or are they all just sitting there to be vice president to Trump if he wins? Presidential job approval. 41% of the country approve of President Biden's job as president. 56% disapprove of President Biden's job. So again, you wonder. People who approve, are they Democrats or Republicans? People who don't approve, are they Democrats or Republicans? But over half the country disapproves. And over half the country thinks that either one of these guys are too old. So who are you going to pick? That's a chart. So either these two guys, President Biden and President Trump, run for president. 24% say Biden should. 30% say Trump should. Wow. Again, there's still about 70% between both of them that say, well, you know what? Neither one of these guys should run. And this is my interesting one, since I am an African American. Support among blacks. In 2020, Biden had 91%, and Trump had 8%. In 23, Fox News poll, 61%, wow, of support is going to Biden, and 20% of support is going to Trump. So Biden has lost at least 30% support from Black folks, 30% support. And Trump has gained 12% support. So 2020, the support for Trump and Biden together was 99. 2023, it's 81. So there is still 19% of African Americans that are swaying somewhere. We just don't know where they're at. And can Trump pull those in? Or will Biden be able to pull those in? They had better wake up, because this election is going to be here. And Trump is just sitting back because he's, biding his time, no pun intended. And Biden is finally getting out there, but is it too little too late? South Dakota, Claiborne, senator, when Biden ran and Biden was supposedly in his basement, in South Carolina, I remember this, he came out and he gave the push for people to vote for Biden. Because I always wondered, well, you know what, if he hadn't pushed people in South Carolina around Super Tuesday to vote for Biden, then would Biden have won? And Claiborne's been on a couple of shows. I would love to get him on a show to talk. And he said he supported still Biden. But we have to keep it real, okay? Trump's doing these charges, Biden's doing these charges and making these mistakes. Sometimes society is scared to say, hey, you know what? We made a mistake. We invested our time in this personal situation. Well, think about this sometimes. You have quarterbacks. People pay a lot of money for quarterbacks. And that quarterback doesn't work. But you want the quarterback to work because everybody's bought in money-wise and everything, but they don't work out. So then you have to say, well, you know what? Just going to have to stomach it and try again. Let's go to tonight's show for people entertainment-wise. When Jay Leno was on, or we thought he was going to be successful coming back, but NBC had to say, you know what, Jay, it's time to go. Conan O'Brien, when he had the Tonight Show, had it for about a year. Jay had left, NBC put a lot of money into it, and then he had to say, you know what, Conan, we made a mistake, let's bring back Jay. So what the Democrat Party is going to have to do, they're going to have to decide one way or other who is going to be taking their place, Kamala, Biden, or are they going to stick it in? And if they stick it in, are they going to win? Or if they do win for the Democratic Party, are they going to be facing either one of these guys or Trump? Let's go back to Trump real quick. Should Trump be the leader of the GOP? So in June of this year, 49% said yes, now 58%. Good president, but considered other leaders. Now people are looking at that. In June, it was 21%, but now it's 19%. It went down, so they're kind of content with Trump. Does the GOP need new leaders? June, 29%, now 22%. So the more Trump stays out there, the more people are more inclined to vote for him. Wow. So now let's talk about some of the people that are running. Republican Party, Donald Trump, June, 51%, now 59%. DeSantis, June, 22%, now 16%. Nikki Haley, 4% June, now 7%. She went up. Mike Pence, June, 7%, now 4%. He went down. Chris Christie, June, 5%, now 4%. Tim Scott, good thing, I guess, but he made no impact. 3% June, 3% now. Vivek, June, 3%, now 2%. Asa Hutchinson, 2% June, and now 1%. Wow. So are these debates helping or not helping? When you look at some of these debates and some people try to, make announcements or get themselves known, for clips and everything, it's interesting because how much of a difference do they really make? Fact checking. Because, a lot of these people, they come on and they talk, and how do we know that they're really telling the truth? So we're going to talk a little bit about immigration, the economy, race, LGBTQ, and Social Security. And we're going to go over this a little bit. So if you're into that news and info, you've come to the right place. You are watching, again, keeping it honest. Keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it real. With yours truly, Anthony Parker. And then there were 7. As we talk about some of these guys who are running, and ladies, who are running for office, and in the middle of debate season. So immigration was a topic, and it might be a topic that they're going to continuously talk about. So Governor Chris Christie, he said Donald Trump never changed one immigration law. Now, is that true or false? This is mostly true. No major bill passed during Trump's presidency to change immigration law. That said, the Trump administration enacted hundreds of changes in immigration policy through executive actions. And executive actions like, okay, just a pen, and earned funding for some of his priorities, including border wall projects. Executive actions can be powerful, but they also can be easily undone by new administrations. So, DeSantis, and this is what he said: Illinois is now letting illegal aliens become police officers. And this is mostly false. Now, listen to this. A new Illinois law expands eligibility for becoming police officers from only U.S. citizens to people who are legally allowed both to work in the U.S. and own a firearm. This includes legal permanent residents. However, the Senate statement ignores that the firearm requirements makes illegals who are in the U.S. illegally intangible. Okay, so this is interesting. The Senate voted against the law of making the wall. So it's mostly false. An ad in May cited DeSantis' 2018 vote while in Congress against an appropriations bill that included $51.6 billion in funding for fencing along the southern border. At the time, DeSantis said the bill had been pushed through without enough time for review. Yeah, maybe. Less than a year before, DeSantis voted for a bill that would provide the same amount of funding toward the construction of border barriers. He later voted for a bill requiring the Department of Homeland Security to build barriers along the border and co-sponsored a bill to fund construction of the wall. So he was kind of for the wall. This is important. Let's see if we're going to talk about this. Social Security. So DeSantis said Donald Trump himself wrote a book where he was talking about the need to increase the age of eligibility for Social Security to 70. So increase that to 70. Now, is this true or false? This is mostly true. So Trump's 2000 book, The American We Deserve, stated, we can also raise the age for receipt of full Social Security benefits to 70. This proposal would not include anyone who is currently retired or about to retire. So though Trump proposed raising the age for full Social Security benefits to 70 in his book, this has not been his position for years. DeSantis also left out details about how Trump's old proposal would work. All this reading, I'm telling you. We do this stuff and we want you to support us. So as you hit the like and subscribe button and tell your friends about what we do and who we are, also make sure you let people know that you can help contribute to our show. We're kind of like PBS. When you go to our About Us page, and there will be links, you can get on this link called Patreon. And you get on that link, and there's 3 tiers. And this is basically saying, we want to help support this show. We want to help sponsor this show. Think of this as a PBS. Or think of this as a politician running. When a politician is running for office, they go campaigning to keep themselves going. So for this show, we're campaigning to continue what we do. As you can see, we put a lot of work into this. A lot of it is because I talk to a lot of people. So you can contribute monthly to us to help us go. And there's special tiers, whatever you want to contribute to, you can do that. But go to our About page and hit Patreon, and then there'll be more information. But we thank you for supporting our show. Again, it's Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. So, LGBTQT, affirmative action, both of these have been controversial. And I still don't think some of the politicians deal with it as much as they should. DeSantis says Trump is a champion of LGBTQ plus affirmative action rights. So a DeSantis social media account shared this sentiment by retweeting a controversial video portraying Trump's record of being favorable. But the video was taken off. It then made clear that most of Trump's comments supporting gay and transgender rights were from before he was elected president. But as president, he sometimes made some overtures, some positive overtures. We need to know more about that too. Is he for or against the rights? DeSantis, Donald Trump is an affirmative action advocate. Is that true or false? Well, they say mostly false, but I've also seen Blacks for Trump. And as you see, the numbers are going up. So Trump expressed support for affirmative action during a 2015 Meet the Press interview. But focusing on the interview ignores what he transpired since. Wow. Including a presidential administrative action to oppose affirmative action. And Trump appointed 3 justices to the United States Supreme Court who signed onto the recent majority opinion, wow, that overturned the policy. Trump also applauded the Supreme Court ruling in the Truth Social Post. Wow. So these are just some facts and figures of some of the people who are running for office. So when they talk, make sure that they say something of substance, and hopefully they will. So speaking of, these guys right here, they're going to be talking, and 8 guys for about an hour, 2-hour period, and ladies, sorry about that. How much speaking time does it take? So now we have 7. So let's go back to that one debate. Who had the most minutes? Surprisingly, former Vice President Mike Pence had 12 minutes and 37 seconds. Vivek, who was all over the place, he had 11 minutes and 47 seconds. Who made the impact? Of course, it was Vivek. Asa Hutchinson, he had 7 minutes. Governor Doug Burgum, he had 8 minutes. Senator Tim Scott, who was kind of not crazy, was kind of quiet at the time, spoke for 8 minutes and 15 seconds. And there were 3 left. Governor Haley had 8 minutes and 41 seconds. Chris Christie had 11 minutes and 22 seconds. And Governor DeSantis had 10 minutes and 22 seconds. And who made the most impact? Of course, it was, Vivek. He made the most impact. When you're in a debate, how many people are for or against a debate? I know myself, I'm for it. I'm not for it if you don't know what you're talking about. So why do the debate? But a lot of people are saying, Trump says, I'm not doing any debate. I'm ahead by 50-something points. So why should I even sit there and debate with these people? And it's funny because more people now, they're not just debating because they're ahead of somebody. They're debating because they don't want to talk to people, which to me is pretty sad. If you're running for any kind of office, you should be able to talk to some people. That's how you decide as a viewer if it's worth it. So let's talk about now the history of debates. Talking about Trump. Trump said on Truth Social, why he doesn't debate. The public knows who I am and what a successful presidency I had. I would therefore not be doing the debates. So instead of, not doing it, he's just going to be all over the place at different spots when he's should be at the debate. One time, the one debate, he should have been there, but he's on Tucker Carlson. The other debate, he should have been there, but he's at the UAW visiting them while the debate is going on, or on the same day. So let's go back. In 2020, amid the COVID-19, he skipped the general debate because it was moved online. I think I remember that. So now let's go to the Democrats. Joe Biden, he's not debating, but he could debate, but he's not going to be debating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Marianne Williamson. And this is interesting. Her polling average is at 6%. You only need 5% to beat a debate. Okay? And Kennedy's is at 13%. So technically, both of them could be debating him, Joe Biden, but he decides not to debate. And why wouldn't you debate? Because you're so far ahead, maybe these two people were put in to maybe give you a better chance of winning. But again, like Joe, where are the average people at? Where some of the people who have been in office or are in office that could have run when they see Murchison and Kennedy way below the threshold, but that could legally run. So in 2022, fewer U.S. Senate and other people who were going to office decided not to debate. They all agreed on this. So let's go back to the history of debates, because are we losing the debates now? I think we are. So let's debate this a little bit. So one of the earliest, and I thought this was interesting, Canada debates was an 1858 U.S. Senate showdown between, back then, Republican Abraham Lincoln and Democrat Stephen Douglas. So the candidates held seven 3-hour debates across Illinois focused on whether new states should be permitted to allow slavery. That's in 1858. So my question is, how did that turn out? In 1956, the first televised presidential debate, it featured Democrat and former governor from Illinois, Governor Stevenson, facing Senator Kefauver of Tennessee. Both of these guys were Democrats. And it was a fairly restrained matchup. I was not there. It's just what I were reading. And so I'm giving you the history of the debates and why we need the debate. So it isn't a debate about debate. So back then they were talking about integration, atomic energy, and foreign policy during the 1-hour debate. They differed over whether the United States should discontinue hydrogen bomb testing. That's really a big deal. So after Stevenson won the primary and Democrat nomination, he selected Coffenfer as his running mate. And sometimes it happens with debaters. When you got these people debating, maybe whoever wins it might say, you know what? I want you on my platform. Interesting. So now let's move up a little bit. One of the most famous ones was the 1960 Republican debate between Nixon and Democrat nominee John Kennedy. This debate in a series of 4 during the election cycle was memorable because it highlighted the important role physical appearance plays. So you had Nixon, who I think always had like sweat on his nose. He had John F. Kennedy, who was by far the most polished politician, kind of like Bill Clinton and kind of like Barack Obama that we've seen. So people listening to this on the radio, they thought Nixon, then the sitting vice president, was winning. But the television viewers, when they saw Kennedy and they saw Nixon, they're like, okay, Nixon is sweating. And Kennedy, he's looking smooth. So this first face-off, there were more than 70 million Americans watching that. Wow. And it's interesting because that first debate, Kennedy went from being down by 1 percentage point before the debate to being up by 3% after the debate. So that did make a difference for him. It really helped him out. So after the Kennedy-Nixon debates, there wasn't another general election debate until 1976. Wow. In 64, President Johnson, he was a favorite. he refused to debate the newcomer, Democrat Herbert Herbert Humphrey. Wow, try saying that, because he knew he was already winning, and because he had a bad performance with Kennedy. Nixon also refused to debate George McGovern in 1972. So since 1976, debates have come back. In 76, Republican incumbent Gerald Ford agreed to debate Jimmy Carter because Ford was lagging in the polls. Wow. There were three debates. Carter credited the debate for his win, which was on international policy. That was the second one. And they established me, he said, as a competent on foreign and domestic affairs person, and I gave the viewers reasons to think that Jimmy Carter has something to offer. In 1980, though, Carter skipped the first debate because independent John Anderson was included. So Carter and challenger Ronald Reagan, they did this a week before the election, and maybe they should do that. And Reagan won because of the debate where he said, "There you go again." That made him famous. So the commission was established as far as debates in 1987. And it says its job is to keep people in the know and to keep debates feasible, informative for the American public. Wow. So that's interesting. Are we going to continue to have these debates? I don't know. But we're keeping it honest, keeping it simple, and keeping it real. And I'm saying we need to because we need to let people know why they're here. So now, ABC poll coming up. Here we go. And it's NBC, Washington Post, and ABC News. They found Trump with a clear nationwide lead in the GOP primary. NBC showed the former president with 59% support, ahead of DeSantis at 16%, Haley at 7%, Pence and Christie at 4% each, Scott at 3%, and Ramaswamy at 2%. The ABC poll, wow, 54% for Trump, DeSantis 15%, with Haley receiving 7%, Pence 6%, Scott 4%, and Christie and Ramaswamy at 3%. Wow. So now, here we go. Let us talk about some of these people who are running for president of the United States. And then there were 7. And there's somebody who's not in here. So since the guy didn't have enough or dropped out, give me his close up. I'm gonna let you figure it out as I tell you the ones who are running. Mike Pence, we know him. Former Mike Pence, he's the vice president. President Mike Pence. He's known to be very religious and has close ties to religious right. He's had several standout moments during the debates, mixing it in with Ramaswamy and defending his decision to certify the results of the 2020 election, which he insists was not stolen. Pence is continuing to run on a promise to restore American values and enact the most anti-abortion policy he can, though he's picking up little traction as he continues to poll in the single digits. This is a guy. Would you vote for him? Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's position in the polls has risen, as I said, since her standout performance at the debate. During one of the debates, she advocated for finding a national consensus on abortion, and she criticized fellow Republicans for not being straight with voters about the difficulty of passing a federal abortion ban. She's putting it out there. She also attacked Ramaswamy's foreign policy platform, playing up her experience as ambassador to the United Nations in the Trump administration. Since the debate, she has climbed to third in some national polls. And at one point, it was Ramaswamy because he came out with the big things and wasn't able to back him. Chris Christie, I'll be watching you every breath you take. That's kind of what he said. So former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has been Trump's most vocal critic in the Republican presidential field. It's like he really doesn't like him. He was booed at the debate when he criticized the former president and became one of only 2 candidates who said they would not support him if he is convicted of crimes, even if he was the GOP nominee. Christie stood behind his performance afterwards, keeping in line with his strategy of framing his campaign in opposition to the former president. He doesn't back down, but really, I mean, what chance does he have to be president? Wow. All right. We are talking about the people who are going to be debating. Doug Burgum, he's 67 years old. He's a former Microsoft executive and two-term North Dakota governor. He qualified for the debate with 3% voter approval in Iowa and 4% in New Hampshire, although only polling at 1% in national polls. He's only 1%. Is he trying to make a name for himself? He's already two-time governor. Is he trying to get on the board, whoever wins? Is he trying to be vice president? Is he trying to be Secretary of State, or is he just trying to get out there to get any spot that he wants? So during his term as governor, 2 terms now, he passed state tax cuts, expanded oil and gas production, and he signed legislation restricting minors' access to gender reassignment surgery. Wow, that's a topic that we're going to have to talk about sometime. Here's about a person that we don't talk about enough because he will. Tim Scott. He's continued to focus his campaign on reducing inflation and securing the border, all while emphasizing his personal success story. And I've heard his personal success story. African American man has had a hard life that built himself up and is very successful. But when he talks, he just doesn't talk like he has been in the hood, that he has been downtrodden. He has this kind of dorkiness about him. And maybe even when he's gone out, he just doesn't seem to have that appeal to African Americans. And as an African American, would you vote for him? Well, let's hear more about his affirmative action beliefs. And maybe his numbers will move up. So speaking of, Black Republican in the Senate, he frequently talks about how he was able to overcome disadvantages and achieve the American dream, and touts his signature legislation of achievement. Opportunity zones designed, whatever opportunity zones are, to funnel money into struggling communities. We need to hear more about that because that sounds like an interesting project. In New Hampshire, he named some possible running mates, and we're going to talk about that on another show because I'm curious too. And he avoided any direct criticism of Trump while touching on a few areas of contrast, like his support for a 15-week limit on abortion and his criticism of United Auto Workers strike. So that means he will not get any support from the UAW people. Recently, his campaign has urged the RNC to weigh early state polls above national ones in deciding which candidate gets the best podium placement in the second debate. And that's interesting too, because you see people on stage. Ramaswamy, he's almost like next to the middle, next to DeSantis, and he's getting a lot of airplay. But as you see, his numbers are like 2%. So why would somebody who get 2% get more airplay than maybe Nikki Haley, who gets about 7%? Because he's saying things that people want to hear. And recently, Ramaswamy has been getting caught with saying some of the wrong things. Speaking of which, I got him almost to the top myself. Vivek Ramaswamy, biotech entrepreneur, right-wing, uber wealthy, author of the book Woke, Inc. He became the focus of the attacks if you watched that one debate. And his opponents were slamming his lack of experience and his foreign policy positions. He has also attracted more scrutiny over the last few months over his hardline position on immigration and his comments about the September 11 attacks. But the 38-year-old is still polling near the top of the field and will again stand center stage next to DeSantis. And he's not polling at the top of the field. He's more or less down. He's like second or third from the bottom. And some of the things that he said as far as immigration and sending the whole family back. And when he was on Meet the Press or NBC, they literally asked him, so you want to approve the laws that will take the immigrants back to another country? But wouldn't this also affect your family? So why would you do something that would affect, even now, your family? Because if you send some immigrants back, then in your family, your mom, your dad, your family will have to get sent back too. And he said a couple other things that people have been like, what? And he said, I've never said that. And, when they say go to the tape, they've gone to the tape and they have seen what he's said. Here's looking at you, kid. One of the debates, if you remember, there was a memo leaked as far as what DeSantis was going to do. And he didn't do it, which was good because everybody was watching it, including yours truly. So DeSantis has been viewed for most of the year as Trump's chief rival for the nomination. But he's literally, excuse me, 50 points below. But his standing in the polls has fallen, and he did not see a bounce to support him even after this debate. So DeSantis 44 has faced criticism for his awkwardness on the campaign trail. Because some people say when he smiles, it's almost like they're pulling a pin or tapping him, and he smiles. And he kind of in his ear smile after that comment or say something after that comment. So he embraces right wing culture war issues that could alienate some voters. Recently, he's taken heat from Trump over signing a 6-week abortion ban, which the former president called a terrible mistake. Nevertheless, the governor won re-election in the Sunshine State last year by 20 points and still usually comes in second, if far below Trump in national polls. Wow. So you look at this, all these people running, and there's one missing. So as you look at all these people and what they're talking about, don't forget, it's these 7 people. Now this is just the Republican Party, because we're talking about Republican Party. But let's not forget also about the Democrat Party. Let's also not forget about the Green Party, because in the Green Party right now, front runner is Dr. Cornel West. And we know from him running that a lot of people have not wanted him to run. So he's going to continue to run from what I gather. And you wonder what qualifies you for this debate? What do you have to do to be in this debate? Well, the criteria is you've got to have a certain amount of money, okay? You've got to be able to meet the threshold. And it's interesting because the ones that have not, be in this race, there are a couple other people. But Hutchinson, if I'm correct, is the one that didn't make it. Okay? This guy right here did not make the results to be in this debate. So make sure you watch the debate because it's going to be interesting. All these debates are going to be interesting. And let me know what we've given you today is we've given you a lot of information about the debates. We've given you a lot of information about politics. Again, if not Trump, one of these people will be the nominee to run for president. But if it is Trump, one of these people may be his VP. And if I had to pick, let's say Trump did get it, young guy, right here, or right here, he's too young. He's like Trump 2.0. Chris Christie, he will not be. He will try to backstab Donald Trump. Mike Pence, of course, worked for Trump, so you're fired, as Trump would say. The other 2 guys right here, they might do Secretary of State, something like that. Tim Scott, Trump might pick him as a running mate to get African Americans. And if he does that, he will probably win. But Haley, Nikki Haley, I liked her as a governor. I liked her as Secretary of State. And I think if Trump picks her as a running mate, then he's got the women's vote. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Keep up with these people, okay? Because you never know how this is going to turn out. We still have like a little over a year or so left. And watch the debates, okay? Because I've given you enough information. And as I look on here, I want to make sure I've given you all the information because we're going to talk about the results of some of these and and what their opinions if they've changed. Stay tuned on the show. We're going to have, like I said, a couple people who are running for president on this show. And I have to tell you too, some of the responses I've had from people. I'm gonna let you know, I'm gonna keep it real. One that's turned me off, and I really was kind of like this guy was Vivek. Um, but some of the people that have been responsive to me has been Nikki Haley, has been Tim Scott, and a couple other surprises, which I tell you about as the show keeps moving on. I want you to keep supporting the show. Tell your friends about the show. If you have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's Parkerman, Parkerman 2011 at gmail.com, Parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can text me, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718, and get on our Patreon account, hit the about. And again, it's fundraising. Think of this, we're not running for office, not yet. Congress is coming up again. We ran for Congress, and that's something that, after talking to a couple of people, we're considering. But support this show. Go to Patreon and contribute. And again, it's like fundraising, campaigning to keep our show going. And as you see how it will progress, it's because of you for helping us out. Should the electoral process, should that change? I don't know which one's worse, the Democrats or the Republicans. Joe, remember? Joe the plumber. He did a lot. He said, okay, well, let me ask Obama a question. And he asked him a question, and maybe it wasn't selling for him, but he asked it, and he became famous. And then he said to himself, hey, you know what? If nobody else is doing anything, then maybe I should run. And he got on a ballot, man, for Congress. He didn't win, but he felt he made a difference. And that's all that we need. If there's more people out there making a difference, and there may be more honest politicians. But let's use AOC as an example. Once you get in, don't sell your soul. Still keep talking for the people. Because this, as we say this every 4 years, the most important election of our lives. And we have to choose wisely. There's still time for the people to come in. Okay, still time for the people from the Green Party, the Democratic Party. Some people are saying that, you know what, there may be some surprises of people coming in. And as I look at the surprises, I can't wait to see if some of those surprises are going to blow our minds. I'm just trying to keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it real. Let me know if there's any topics or subjects that you'd like to have on this show, or even guests, because as soon as we start doing these guests, you'll be surprised how it goes. So, think of this guy, Joe the plumber. His legacy is your legacy. Don't let these voters not vote. If people aren't there that you want to vote for, then get people out there for you to vote for. Whether it's Green Party, Libertarian Party, Democrat Party, Republican Party. Have I said all my parties? And any other party. We need to make this easier where when people decide to run, we know it's about money, but it's also in who you know. And just get out there, okay? It may be a hard thing to do, but one thing politicians, we forget, if I was that politician, that at one point we were going door to door and talking to people. So if it's whether you're at a UAW strike and the president and the contenders are coming to your place, grill them. No softball. Put them on the spot. Debate them. Make them appear at debates. Make the national organizations respect who's running. Because one day, I think the Democrat Republican Party, they may have a serious challenging party. Do you want to be a part of that party if the Democrat and Republican Party can't do what you need them to do? And what are the issues that you need? Are you looking for jobs? You're looking for inflation to go down? Um, yeah, you may be looking to talk about COVID and immigration and civil rights and everything. But again, if it doesn't affect you, then you don't care. Do we really care about the border wall? Do we really care about Ukraine? How much of this is hurting or helping our household? But when it hurts your household, then you want to vote. And then you may be too late. So as this election season keeps boiling on, you need to keep up what's happening with politics. Watch your news shows. Use these shows. Don't believe everything that you see. You watch these shows. You go on the internet. Um, use these shows as cliff notes. Okay, even when the politicians say things, not everything they say is factually right because they don't think that you're going to talk about it. So find out about it. Support these shows that are really out there. Mainstream media isn't like what it used to be. I know from doing it for years that there's some stories that I've seen and I found out, well, there's more to that story. Wow. So social media, the good ones, are giving you information more than maybe you might need, but not more than you should have because there's never enough of good information. I am just keeping it honest, keeping it real, and keeping it simple. So again, I asked you too. Question of the day. Have you ever emailed somebody and said, oops, geez, man, I wish I hadn't emailed that? Something to think about, something to laugh about. So we will talk again. Tell your friends, hit the like button, the share button, excuse me, and then subscribe. And in closing, keep your head up, never look down, always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. I am Anthony Parker Alexander, keeping it honest. God bless.